This seems like a natural evolution of the last list, doesn't it? Like the levels, Sonic bosses range wildly in terms of quality. Some are awesome, some aren't, and others fall in the middle. Like last time, a simple top 10 isn't enough for the year of Sonic, so instead, we're once again going through the games to determine which ones are the best and the worst. And yes, DT's here with me to cover the bad ones.
I'm beginning to notice a pattern. Wait, you said before that we'd be going all out except for 3 games. Does that mean every game's on here?
Well, that was the initial plan, but I hit a few snags when making this list. The original 3 games I excluded were the Riders trilogy, since they only have one boss each and it's the final one. For this list, we're not counting final bosses because that's going to be its own ranking video in the future. As I went on, TSR and Shattered Crystal kind of fell in the same boat as the Riders trilogy. Now yes, Shattered Crystal does have the races, if you think those qualify, but they're all barely distinguishable from each other in terms of difficulty. Battle is a fighting game, and as such there's way too many fights to sift through to find the best and worst one. Besides, more than half of them are capable of clocking you so hard you see stars. Chronicles... Okay, to be perfectly honest, I have not finished Chronicles yet, and I think the game is so boring and I can't form any opinion on any of the bosses I faced. But other than that, anything goes. So let's get started with the original Sonic the Hedgehog. There's not much to say regarding Sonic 1's bosses. Most of them are really easy, and Mine Eggman, yes that's what it's called, isn't that different. Granted, it does require a little more thought since you need to time your jumps to either hit Eggman with the spike bombs or launch yourself upward to hit Eggman. But really, it's just not that challenging or even that interesting to begin with. But hey, it's Sonic 1. The series still has plenty of room to grow.
I don't like to hate on Labyrinth Zone, but its boss is the most potential to be annoying. All you do is try to hit Eggman while he flies through the platforms. But let's be real, with so many spikes and turrets along the way, along with the rapidly rising water, that's never gonna happen more than 3 times. 4 if you're lucky. You'd sooner hear the drowning theme than actually keep pace with Eggman.
Deciding the best Sonic 2 boss was pretty hard as most of them are pretty good, but in the end, I chose Capture Eggman as the best. In this fight, you can't attack Eggman directly or you'll get electrocuted. Instead, you have to use your Spin Dash and the pinball flippers to hit Eggman from above. But be careful when you roll back down because Eggman will be dropping bombs that can easily catch you off guard. It's not that challenging, but it's still the boss I had the most fun with.
In stark contrast, picking the worst boss was as easy as the fight itself. Submarine Eggman only has 2 attacks that are easy as piss to avoid. Plus he just sits there and lets you hit him a billion times before going back into the lava to repeat the process. If by some miracle that you get hit, let alone die to this boss, then I'm sorry, but you absolutely suck at playing video games. But hey, the Doctor does do something similar but improved later on in the game, so at least you can't say he doesn't learn from his mistakes.
Well, this was an obvious choice, but then again, how could I not pick Metal Sonic? The very first race you have with him is absolutely iconic, but at the same time, not that hard. All Metal Sonic does is charge forward a bit and put up an electric shield. There are spikes on the road and the threat of Eggman's insta-kill laser should you fall behind, but they're not that hard to avoid. But then again, this was only Metal's first encounter. He's evolved significantly since then.
You know, these bosses are kinda stupid. The Eggmobile fight starts out similarly to Escaper Eggman from Sonic 1, only this time you're going down instead of up. How original. After that, you're stuck underwater with Eggman shooting electric spread shots at you, which are really easy to avoid. And conveniently, he also has a shield made of bubbles. Let me repeat that. He has a shield made of bubbles while underwater. How and why would that aid him in any way? I get that having an underwater fight without any way to breathe would make the fight impossible, but I can think of several fights following this game that incorporate that without compromising the boss's design. Here though, it comes off as Eggman being an idiot and makes the fight feel as much of a joke as it is. And you people call Eggman Treadmill a joke.
Now I know what you're going to say, and while Big Arm is the final boss of Sonic 3, it is not the final boss of Sonic 3 NK, which is the version we're covering, so it counts. This fight is quite challenging as Eggman will attempt to grab and slam you down onto the platform, and thanks to the spikes on its head, you have to be extremely precise in your attacks to avoid taking damage. Even with only 2 attacks, the tension as you make every single move is quite high, even if it only takes 8 hits to finish it off. And then there's Generations 3DS where it gave it an awesome new remix of its theme, but also made the fight a lot easier. You win some, you lose some, I guess.
This is another instance of Eggman looking like an idiot. The Hotmobile starts sucking in the platforms while shooting out bombs, so you need to keep jumping on the platforms while keeping an eye out for the bombs. Sounds like it'd be a decent fight, eh? Well, here's the catch. Not only are the bombs not that hard to avoid, but said bombs are what damaged the boss in the first place. Are you kidding me, Eggman? You had the perfect opportunity to guarantee victory for yourself, and you just threw it out the window. This isn't like the Eggmobile where the designers needed to add air in some way to keep the fight fair. You have virtually no excuse this time around. I can't tell if this was an oversight on your part, or a blatant design flaw to keep things fair.
Okay, I know this is the final boss of Sonic's story, but there are still more bosses after it. It's only the final boss if it truly is the last boss. That said, the Egg Viper is quite good. It's got several attacks including lasers, a laser that can create an explosion, charging forward while firing off lasers, and throwing buzzsaw-like platforms. To damage it, you would first need to homing attack parts of the body to get to the cockpit, but later on you'll need to jump on the buzzsaws to reach the cockpit. Eggman even adapts as the fight goes on by destroying some of the platforms, and even trying to take you out with him by crashing into the platforms. All things considered, this is a pretty great boss to end Sonic's story, and one of the rare cases where its successor actually one-upped it in my opinion.
Yup, once again, Big has been spared from being the worst. I know his fight against Chaos 6 is outrageously easy, but that's also a blessing in disguise since you don't have to waste too much time on it. Plus, when you have a character whose gameplay style is fishing, what can you really do? Chaos 4, however, is actually annoying. For starters, Chaos spends most of his time underwater, where you can't hit him, so you gotta wait until he surfaces. Meanwhile, he's got a bunch of attacks that can hurt you and take out the lily pads, but they're also easy to avoid that I don't want to waste effort explaining them. You would think the water would be the biggest enemy, but it doesn't act like normal water. Instead of immediately sinking to the bottom, you sink in really slowly, giving you plenty of time to just jump out, making this potential hazard pretty pointless. And the worst part, you have to do the same boss 3 times. Does the boss change between each version? No! It's the exact same for every single character, which makes no sense since Chaos 6 changed between each version. What's Chaos 4's excuse? Nothing, that's what.
Now I know what you're going to say, Tony, how could you pick Egg Golem over Sonic vs. Shadow? That fight is way more iconic and fun. Iconic, yes. Fun, not for me. I feel like that fight gets way too hard for all the wrong reasons as it goes on, even as the final boss of the Hero and Dark stories. Egg Golem is pretty fun, at least Sonic's version is, Eggman's just kind of exists. It only has 2 attacks, those being slamming the platforms with one or both hands, and sliding his hands around the platforms. But they can be pretty challenging to avoid without falling into the quicksand. To damage the golem, you just need to get behind it when the platforms stick out, and homing attack or jump your way up to the device on its head and smack it. Do this enough times and you win. Simple fight, but it gets the job done. Plus, a lot of Adventure 2's bosses aren't the greatest in the world, so it's nice to have one that's at least above average. But for every above average fight in this game, we get...
We already don't like the character battles in this game enough as is, so it was obvious one of them was going to be the worst. Many people point towards Tails vs. Eggman 2 as the worst, but personally, we beat Eggman on our second try and Tails on our first. Knuckles and Rouge took multiple attempts. The only way to get good hits on your opponent is when they're not attacking, except they barely ever stay still and stop attacking, plus they lose rings when they get hit, making it difficult to tell if they got hit or you did. Not to mention the floor will open up and send you flying up onto the walls, and once again, the arena is way too big. More often than not, you're going to be flying around in circles looking for your opponent while...
Here I come! Get ready, flip wave! Wave. Here I come. Get ready, Flip Wave.
Look at this bullshit! How is this fair? Your opponent can just spam their special moves from a mile away that will hit you if you stay still for even a millisecond. Okay, once you find them, wherever they are, there's not enough space on the beam to properly get hits in, so the only way to hit them is to attack them from above, which is a lot harder than it sounds. At least the cutscene afterwards is fun.
Honestly, determining the best boss in Sonic Advance 1 was tough since almost all of them aren't that good, so I chose the Egg Spider for being the most interesting. All Eggman does is crawl along the ceiling while dropping icicles down onto you. You just need to jump on the icicles to reach Eggman and hit him a bunch. It's not hard at all, in fact Amy can straight up cheese it with her hammer, but it gets points for being the most involved boss in this pretty mediocre game.
As the pseudo-final boss of the game, Egg X is the most annoying boss in the game. But even then, it's not that annoying. Honestly, the biggest thing you can complain about is the design. Does this look like an X to you? No, it just looks like a ring. Even from a top-down perspective, it only has 3 cannons, so it's more of an Egg Y than an Egg X. As for its attacks, it's got 3. Bombs, a hand, and a laser. The bomb's trajectory is random, making dodging them total guesswork. The laser comes out really fast, making the window for dodging and attacking really slim. And the arm is just kinda there. Yeah, in case you couldn't tell, we don't care about Sonic Advance. Any of them, really.
Sonic Adventure 2.
Looks like the sequel managed to one up the original. Before you actually take on the actual boss, you gotta go through weaker versions of every other boss. Some people don't like boss rushes, but I personally don't mind them. And since they're weaker, it makes even the more annoying bosses less of a hassle. Then you get to the actual boss, the Super Egg Robo Z. In this fight, Eggman will raise and lower 3 platforms and attempt to skewer you with spikes on the ceiling, while occasionally firing the arms and a laser from the head. The head is the only place you can do damage, and so you need to use the platforms to reach the head while make sure you don't get hit by the spikes or the laser. The arms can be damaged as well, but they don't do damage to the robots, so only take them out if you don't feel like dealing with them. This one can actually be pretty challenging, although it is still a Sonic Advance game at the end of the day. The only challenge in these games is by collecting those damn emeralds.
Again, with stark contrast to the original, we genuinely hate this boss. The Egg Go-Round, dumb name am I right, is the most unfair fight in the entire Sonic Advance series. The platforms spinning around it are either constantly spinning, constantly releasing spikes, or both, making actually getting into position to hit Eggman a chore. Saying nothing about these damn spike balls that shoot out 3 at a time. These are an utter nightmare to avoid. In fact, they were the main cause of death during most of our attempts at beating this boss. There were other bosses that got on our nerves too, like the Egg Saucer with its insta-kill hand, but the Egg Go-Round went above and beyond to be even worse.
This might be an obvious choice, but for good reason. The Egg Emperor is quite the challenging fight, no matter who you're playing as. It starts out on a straight path with Eggman throwing vertical and horizontal energy waves at you. There are also enemies and cannons positioned along the path that can give you some trouble. After a little bit, you get to a large arena with more cannons than enemies. Eggman will continue to fire energy waves and use his shield to block attacks. My advice is to use your flying character to disable the shield for a bit, and then go nuts with whoever's your most leveled up, and know when to use your Team Blast effectively. If you don't know what you're doing, it can be painful to beat this boss, but when you figure it out, it's really fun, and worthy of a spot in Generations 3DS, even if it was severely downgraded.
Does this even qualify as a boss? It's just waves of enemies one after the other.
According to the game, yes.
Okay, fine. If you're playing as Team Rose or Team Chaotix, Robot Storm isn't too bad, even with Team Chaotix's cannon section that took me forever to figure out. But with Team Sonic or Team Dark, it is so annoying. Team Sonic is manageable, I guess, but only if you know what to expect. On your first couple of attempts, you will feel pain. Then there's Team Dark's version. There are so many of these big guys in armor and so many other high-level enemies that you will feel pain even if you know what to expect. It's tedious, it's frustrating, and above all else, not fun. This is why no one likes horror boss fights.
Sonic Advance 3.
To be honest, not counting the true final boss, I don't like any of Advance 3's bosses. They either exist or make me mad, so I just chose the one that was the most bearable. The Egg Ball number 2, yes that's literally what it's called, is a fine enough boss fight. Its gimmick is, what else, rolling around in a loop. You just hit a certain spot in the ball to damage it and the ball will roll faster the more you hit it. It's even got some realistic physics in it, so that's neat, I guess. Again, we don't care about the Advanced Trilogy. If it got ported to modern consoles, I wouldn't care at all.
Why? Why are so many of these bosses so needlessly hard? The egg gravity is one of the biggest kick in the balls we've experienced in gaming. What you need to do is hit General on the opposite side of the bridge to launch Eggman into the electric spikes. But don't be too close when Eggman lands because you'll be lost as well. Eggman will even do this rotating attack that's really hard to avoid and gets progressively faster as the fight goes on. But what really makes this fight so needlessly hard are the controls. Advance 3's controls are so damn slippery that you feel like you're running on ice for 90% of the game. And in the boss fights, where positioning is everything, it turns a decent fight into a hell fight.
Most of the bosses in Shadow are so easy it can barely be called a fight. Black Doom's fight actually feels like he's trying. He's got several attacks including boomerang waves, meteor strikes, vertical slashes, and teleportation. The only weak point is his head, and the guns nearby will make hitting it a lot easier, as per usual with this game, though his frequent teleportation will make things a little more difficult, but not by much. Funny thing is, Black Doom's normal form poses a much better fight than his final form. Wrap your head around that one.
To clarify, there are multiple versions of the Egg Breaker, but this one is especially bad for one special reason. Under normal circumstances, this fight is pretty whatever, but the thing that escalates it to being the worst is Eggman himself. Throughout this whole fight, he has only one line of dialogue, and he never stops saying it!
You know what they say, the more the merrier. You know what they say, the more the merrier. You know what they say, the more the merrier. You know what they say, the more the merrier. You know what they say, the...
Well said, Arnold. Well said.
Now here's an iconic rival battle that I can get behind, aside from the earlier one, but I already covered that. Sonic vs. Blaze is quite the good fight. Everything you can do when you play as them, they can do too, with each character having their own unique move like Blaze summoning flame geysers and Sonic making tornadoes. Once they're down to their last bit of health, you enter one final clash, which would be the best part of the fight if you didn't have to mash both the A and B buttons during it. Okay, why do you have to mash both buttons? That's needlessly tiring, and the main reason most modern QTEs only have you mash just one button. By making you mash two, it makes the event feel a lot less like an epic clash of rivals that can go either way, and a lot more like But even then, it's still at least manageable, and my only gripe with this fight. The rest of it is still pretty neat. Also, no, I'm not quoting the meme.
Wait, didn't I already fight you? Yeah, you were the first boss of the game. Why are you here again? What? You're different? How? You literally have the same design with different colors, the same attacks, and even the same name except for the last word. How are you substantially different? You have one new attack, and it's literally just spewing missiles that can be avoided even if you just stand still? That's pathetic. Get out of here, you copy.
What is it with Sonic games and having most of the bosses be really easy? The Egg Kong is barely a cut above the rest. All it does is rain down missiles, and Eggman occasionally pops out to fire energy waves, leaving him open for an attack. Metal Sonic is also there to give you trouble, but in actuality, he's just kinda there. It at least does something different with the rival, which barely places it above the others. But just like the rest of the game, you can basically brute force your way through, and get an S rank in the process.
I can't even get mad at this one. The only mildly annoying part about the Egglings is that its claw attack can trap you under the water, giving your rival an opportunity to get a hit in. Aside from that, it's as basic as the rest of them. And this game.
Well, that was some healthy foreshadowing. The Egg Wyvern is the previously mentioned successor to the Egg Viper, and it's better in almost every way. Yeah, it's slower, but that is a footnote in this great fight. It's got standard shots, lasers that go every which way, missiles that can take out the footholds, lasers that can combine to create explosions, and a charge attack. To damage it, you have to jump on the horn while it's charging and steer it into the falling debris. Once the canopy is destroyed, you'll have to homing attack the robots to reach the cockpit and damage Eggman. The process repeats until you're down to the last foothold, and Eggman charges at you one final time for one last homing attack to end the battle and Sonic's story. This feels not only like an epic fight, but also a love letter to the original Egg Viper fight in Sonic Adventure through its atmosphere and lines of dialogue. Also, that music is freaking awesome. Not enough people talk about it. Have a listen. Oh, and then there's also Eggman's death.
I can't believe this! Yeah!
Flawless.
Here's something I can rage about. Worm Iblis is terrible. The way this fight works is that Iblis will spawn attacks until eventually raining down some stalactites for you to get closer to these purple orbs. Once you reach them, you homing attack them, they glow, Iblis charges into them, you attack its eye, you do damage, the cycle repeats. What's the problem? Iblis is so slow. He takes forever to attack, and his attacks are so slow that you'll be on the other side of the arena by the time they land. Even worse, he takes even longer to summon the stalactites, and the fact that you have to do this process 3 times in a row makes this fight so unnecessarily slow that it honestly rivals the latest Batman movie. What's even worse is that you fight this thing twice as Sonic and Shadow, and it's the exact same experience for both. People complain about Silver being broken, but at least that fight can be over and done with easily if you know what to do. This fight is so slow and boring that even if this game was technically flawless, it would likely still be a pain in the ass just to get through once.
Hey, another golem. Looks like lightning really did strike twice. The Ifrit golem has multiple attacks, including firing out flaming barrels, raining down flaming barrels, and raising the lava. To beat it, you have to attack the hands, which will cause it to fall into the lava for a limited time. Then you just gotta make your way up to the head and attack the weak point before it gets back up. The Ifrit will attack more frequently as the fight progresses, so be on your guard. Top it off with some pretty decent music, and you have a pretty good fight. Golem's got it good in the Sonic universe.
Every single drop of all you got.
Well, you know what bosses don't have it good? Pseudo-final bosses. Eraser Jin is brutal. Despite only having 2 attacks, he is so fast that you'll need Sonic's reflexes to dodge them. Say nothing of this attack, which you can capitalize on if you time it right, except the window for doing so is so short and random that actually pulling it off is total guesswork. Time break does help, but then again, only if you time it right, and that's pure luck as well. I get he's the big bad of the game, but he went way too hard for just the penultimate fight of the game.
La 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 la, a new venture. La 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 la, a new venture.
Looks like my love for sky levels has resurfaced in boss fight form. The Ghost Condor is a challenging but great boss fight. It starts out by shooting red and green mines when you're below and missiles when you're above. To damage it, you just need to jump on the green mines to launch yourself up to the 2 platforms next to it, and then hit the weak point as many times as you can without falling or getting hit by the missiles. And if you do fall, you just repeat the process until you win. After getting below half health, the Condor will throw in more attacks, like using the platforms to squash you and charging straight at you. Trust me, this fight is a lot harder than it looks, and it might take you more than one attempt depending on your skills. Luckily, it's simply challenging and not frustrating. Unlike...
Okay, maybe frustrating isn't the right word, since we don't actually hate any of Rush Adventure's bosses. This is just the most annoying. The way you beat the Ghost Pirate is to take out the core, whether it be inside or outside of him. And yes, it can change positions mid-fight. Our problem is that the pirate is constantly in your face with his sword and fire, so concentrating on the core is a lot harder. Yeah, you can stun the pirate for a bit, but that might take too long before the core goes back into the pirate. Oh, and by the way, damaging the pirates does not count as damage to the boss. Only damage to the core does, so that's fun.
Sonic Rivals 2.
Like Rivals 1, the bosses in Rivals 2 are just eh. So picking the best was pretty hard. I went with the egg liner in the end because it was the one I found the most fun. You're constantly chasing it down, waiting for an opening to attack while your rival tries to get a hit in before you. You know, just like the last game. The fact that you're constantly on the move makes things a bit more fun, but it's still easy as piss.
This is just lame. So, the egg crawler will be constantly driving around in a circle trying to hit you, even though you're clearly up here and not down there. And since it's covered in spikes, the only way to do damage to it is to drop these enemies onto it when it passes. That's literally all you do. Your rival is also there, in the way, making me want to strangle them.
Were you expecting something else? The Egg Dragoon is one of, if not the best Eggman fight in the entire series. For starters, there's the atmosphere. At this point in the game, Eggman is done with Sonic shenanigans. He's finally gotten what he wanted, and he's not going to let Sonic take it from him. Sonic, meanwhile, also harbors some anger towards Eggman since he broke apart the world and turned Sonic into the werehog into the first place. So in this fight, it's very personal. The Egg Dragoon has a lot of attacks, including standard shots, ice shots, swinging his drill, summoning robots, and firing his drill into the platform to make you fall down towards the Earth's core. That's epic. To damage it, you just need to wail on the green circle until it becomes stunned. Then you enter a quick time event, the first of which will have you rip pieces of the Egg Dragoon off, and the second having you literally punch apart the Eggmobile, tear it out of the Egg Dragoon, and throw Eggman into the distance. Now that's a finisher. The Wii version's also pretty good, even though it lacks the QTEs, and the one in Generations is good in its own right as well. Then there's Force's version. We don't talk about Force's version.
Out of all the night bosses in this game, the Dark Guardian is the most pathetic. All you do in this fight is push blocks towards this conveyor belt to do massive damage to it. Don't ask me how that works. And yeah, you do it to fight the Guardian and some enemies, but they go down so easily that you might as well be saying,
just stay, good boy, down doggy.
You know it's sad when the Wii version has a better fight than the HD version, and all that version did was make it a basic brawl.
Wow, didn't expect Blaze to get another good fight.
Isn't she called Percival in this game?
I know what I said. Anyways, Blaze at first glance seems to be just like the other two knights, and well, she is. She does have her own attacks, like spinning in a flaming tornado. She also has better defense than the others, making the windows for attacking more slim. Not much else to really say, she's just a good opponent.
Looks like another pseudo-final boss went way too hard. King Arthur's second fight is Pain. He's got so many attacks that it can be hard to stay alive, and the classes you have with him are so stingy that you'll most likely fail even if you swing the Wii remote correctly. It's total luck if the game decides that you did everything right. Or at least that's what it feels like most of the time, and if the game decides you didn't, it'll make the fight take even longer than it would normally. Luckily, you get to listen to the banger that is Fight the Night more, but that can only alleviate the pain so much.
Man, this was a hard entry to make. Flying Eggman is one part carbon copy and another part fresh. The first half of the fight is literally the same fight of the same name from Sonic 2, except with a homing attack. After enough attacks, Eggman attempts to retreat, and the fight actually resembles something decent. Now you have to run up to Eggman and attack him while he's throwing bouncing balls of himself at you. Certain balls will even have different qualities, like blue balls will bounce faster and yellow balls are big. It's easily the most interesting boss in the game, but this is Sonic 4. That's nothing to be proud of.
TS, do I really have to do this?
Yes, we need a worst boss from Sonic 4. Now pick which one is the worst.
I can't pick a worst boss.
Why not?
Well, because they're all just carbon copies of previous bosses from the series. How am I supposed to pick one when they're all so boring?
Well, just pick the one that bores you the most.
They all bore me equally.
No, they don't. You just don't want to talk about Sonic 4.
Well, can you blame me?
Well, no, but we need to get this video on the road. Now pick which one's the worst and talk about it for 15 seconds.
Fine. Capture Eggman is just the exact same boss from Sonic 2 with only one new attack that you'll likely never see. It's also made even easier with the homing attack. Is that enough?
Wait for it. Wait for it. And now we can move on. Yeah, this one might be very similar to a previous boss in the game, but it's got a few extra things going for it. For one, it looks awesome. Not that the other one didn't look awesome, this one just looks better, especially in Ultimate. For two, it's got a cooler attack by summoning asteroids to crush you. Other than that though, it's largely the same fight as before. Just get close enough and wail on him with homing attacks or the Rocket Wisp. But luckily that fight is still pretty alright, all things considered. I just wish it was a little better.
Now we have a reverse situation. How do I sum up Admiral Jelly? Well, imagine Captain Jelly's fight, but underwater. That's what's wrong with this fight. The ship is made super easy thanks to the swimming controls, and the ground portion is made even harder thanks to the stiff normal controls. Not to mention, if you use the drill wisps, Admiral Jelly will zip around the water, making it nearly impossible to hit him. Probably the only instance in this game where the wisps hinder instead of help. It's not terrible at least, but it's still bad.
Well, if you're gonna bring back a final boss and make it a normal boss, you may as well do it right. Perfect Chaos in Generations might just be better than the original fight. The sense of speed is even greater as you run and platform through the ruined city as Chaos tries to smack you with his tentacles. You beat it the same way as last time. Just run up its body and boost into its head, or homing attack the head from above. After 3 hits, Chaos will use the water to raise all the debris around it and use all of its tentacles and lasers to ensure that you die. You'll have to make it to the head fast and deliver one last homing attack. Yeah, there's no Super Sonic, but let me put it this way. In Sonic Adventure, Sonic needed his super form to win. But here, he doesn't even consider using his super form. That means that Sonic has grown strong enough to no longer need his super form when fighting a literal god. How about that, huh?
Okay, before you say anything, no, we do not hate this fight. It's just that Generations bosses are so good that we have to use process of elimination to determine the worst. Someone had to take the fall here, and unfortunately, Shadow ended up on the chopping block. What you do in this fight is try to stay ahead of Shadow, collect these pink orbs, and unleash a super attack that will decimate Shadow. But if Shadow gets enough pink orbs, he'll unleash his super attack. Seems like a decent fight, eh? Well, it is. It's just the weakest of the bunch because it's really easy. We may not like Adventure 2's Shadow fight, but at least that one was more challenging. Here you just stay ahead of Shadow, which is really easy to do, and the super attack is practically impossible to mess up unless you try. Sorry, Shadow, but as much as I like you, your boss fight ended up being the weakest.
Like DT said in Top 10 Rivals in Video Games, Metal Sonic's never had a bad boss fight. During this fight, you're running on a roller coaster while Metal Sonic flies ahead. All you gotta do is get close enough to hit Metal Sonic while he unleashes attacks like rolling into you, electric waves, taking out chunks of the track, and charging all over the place. It's a simple fight, but it gets the job done. Far more than any of Episode 1 bosses could do.
For a giant mech made out of scrap, it sure is an easy fight. All the egg scrap mech does is rain down blocks very slowly, and sometimes punch you. All you need to do to win is simply wait until the shield around the head opens up, and hit Eggman before the mech hits you. Repeat this process very slowly, and eventually you'll get out of the pit where Eggman attempts to jump on you. All you need to do is super spin dash into the front of the feet because the heels have spikes to make the mech fall down, and then hit the head to finish. It's easy and slow and a lot more anticlimactic than you'd expect from Again, a giant mech made out of scrap.
Say what you will about Sabok being a Bowser clone, at least his boss fight's pretty cool. Instead of just fighting the machine he's using like the other Deadly Six, and even Sabok previously, you fight him on his mech in a brute force brawl. Okay, he will stomp on his mech to make it shoot out lasers, but every other attack is just Sabok throwing his hardest punches. I especially love Sabok's line before the last part of his fight.
Now, don't break too easily.
What you need to do to beat him is simply use your kick to lower his guard, and then wail on him with a homing attack. Rinse and repeat until the final part. During this part, if you get Sabok close to the edge of his mech, he'll begin to lose his balance. And at that point, you need to attack him with a fully powered homing attack to finish him off. Otherwise, it won't work. Now, I have heard people complain about this part since they didn't know about the fully powered homing attack, but honestly, this is close to the end of the game. If you somehow don't know about it, then you clearly don't pay attention. I'll also briefly mention the 3DS version, as that's pretty good too. You fight Sabok while skydiving as he fires fireballs and spinning lasers at you. You'll need to use the fully powered homing attack to break his guard, and then wail on him as much as you can. You can also use the laser whisk to do some serious damage. Also, his boss theme is awesome and intimidating, and I love it. Have a listen.
I know no one likes an emo, but that doesn't mean you have to be the worst boss.
Wait a minute, why are you only talking about the 3DS version?
Because the rest of the bosses in the Wii U version are fine enough. Zor in the 3DS version isn't. So how does this work? Well, Zor will fly off into the trees to charge up an attack. Meanwhile, you have to use this cannon to find him amongst the fake ones, fire at him to knock him down, wail on him till he gets back up. What's the problem? You control the cannon with the 3DS gyroscope. Yeah, you have to stand up and move around in order to beat this guy. Now granted, if you're at home, it's not so bad. But if you're, say, playing this game on a road trip, then you'll be put through the ringer just to get through this fight. Why couldn't we have the option to just use the circle pad? It would have been a lot less painful, and even if you're at home playing, it's still unnecessary and cumbersome. No wonder people don't care about the 3DS version.
I know I said it before, but dang, even the worst Sonic games can't keep Melosonic from being awesome. This is another auto-running boss fight, but in 3D, which does make things a little more exciting. The way to beat Metal is by launching these blue balls littered throughout the roads at him. All the while, Metal dishes out attacks like explosions, launching the blue balls at you, dashing at you, and ripping through the ground ahead. It's pretty climactic and further proof that Melosonic is practically untouchable when it comes to boss fights. Even if everything runs at 10 frames per second.
Way to drag out a fight, if you can even call this thing a fight. The Guardian is split up into 4 phases that are spread throughout the entire level. Phase 1 is a chase sequence. It's easy as piss. Phase 2 involves just throwing enemies at it while occasionally dodging its attacks. Also easy. Phase 3 is a slightly harder chase sequence. Still easy. Also, the partner AI is stupid. Phase 4 is in the submarine shooting segment, which is, you guessed it, easy. Some Guardian, am I right?
So the first boss is the best one outside of the final boss, huh? Well, in a game with a whopping 4 bosses, there's not much you can do. Unga Bunga is decent, to be honest. All it does is try to squash you with its hands and push you around with ice blocks. You can damage it a number of ways, be it attacking the hands or climbing up and attacking the head. It's a first boss for sure, but a decent one. And in a game series like Sonic Boom, decent is high praise.
Looks like Sonic Boom strikes again with painfully easy bosses. The spider's attacks are numerous, but they're all really easy to dodge. Seriously, the only phase you'd ever have an iota of trouble with is Phase 3, and that's mainly due to the enemies. It's a nothing fight through and through, which is disappointing considering you're facing a giant spider.
I said we talk about this later, and it's well past later. Melosonic is by far his best boss fight in Mania. It starts out as you just running in a straight line as Melosonic charges at you. After a little bit, Metal gets into this machine and summons mini Silver Sonics to attack you, while also shooting out electric balls. To damage Metal, you just need to bounce the Silver Sonics up to him in ball form, which a well-timed spin dash can do easily. After enough hits, the machine explodes and you enter another running sequence. After that, a moving wall of spikes appears, and you need to run away from it while Metal fires electric balls and charges at you. Just hit him enough times and it'll collide straight into that spike wall. At least in the original Mania. In Mania Plus, the last phase is changed completely, with Melosonic absorbing the Phantom Ruby to become Hello Metal Madness, long time no see. Melosonic now walks towards you, destroying the road as he goes on, and you need to hit the case the Phantom Ruby is in to do damage, while being careful not to get impaled by Metal's spike hands. He'll also fire a laser and bombs to keep you on your toes. Man, Melosonic is just on a roll. Is there anything that can bring him down?
Well, I would say forces, but he's great even in that game, as we'll soon see. Mania's constant nostalgia pandering is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing that we get to see the old stuff made new, and a curse because the old that was good can easily be ruined. Such was the fate that befell the Final Zone. In Sonic 1, the Final Zone was the ultimate challenge of the game. You had 0 rings, meaning any attack would kill you, whether it be the electric balls or the pistons crushing you, and it also had an epic theme to carry it throughout. In Mania, it's almost exactly the same. What's the difference? You have rings and a plain old boss theme. That's lame. Okay, there is a second phase where Eggman goes ballistic, but it feels a lot less grandiose with this basic boring boss theme. Honestly, as much as we love Mania, they shouldn't have brought this fight back, even if they wouldn't have done it this dirty.
Sorry for spoiling things ahead of time, but really, anyone who's played Forces saw this coming. Melosonic continues to take the crown. It's another auto runner where you just need to get close enough to hit Melosonic a bunch. Meanwhile, Metal will unleash electricity, charge at you, and summon robots as a barrier. You even get to finish him off with a double boost. It's relatively simple, but fun nonetheless.
I know TS said we don't talk about the Forces Egg Dragoon, but I have to for the sake of this video. For starters, it opens up with the first boss of Sonic 1 again? Oh, but this time he's got a saw instead of a wrecking ball. What a difference. After dealing with that, the Egg Dragoon comes out, and it's insultingly easy. All you do is bounce back the black balls to do damage, and simply running back and forth across the arena, while occasionally jumping, is enough to avoid all of Eggman's attacks. Why? Why did you have to do this to the Egg Dragoon of all things? Why not make it a one-off machine instead of besmirching the legacy of a great boss? People complain about Infinite's third fight being just Melosonic's fight again, and while it is, at least it's a direct copy of a good fight and not made worse in any capacity, unlike the Egg Dragoon, which destroys everything that made the original fight so great in the first place. Okay, we're finally done. Close us out, TS.
On it. I'm Tony Sonic, and that was every best and worst boss in the Sonic series, minus a few games. Just like the levels, the bosses tend to rocket up and down in terms of quality, but at least we can always find the good and the bad. As for the next video, I discovered something really funny. If you guys thought that Battle and Heroes releasing within 4 weeks of each other was funny, well, Rush and Shadow released on the exact same day! So now I'm in a bit of a pickle as to which one I should cover first. And you don't really need to play one to understand the other, so I'm free to choose whichever one I want. But why simply choose when I can have a little bit of fun with it? So, I'm gonna let you all decide for me. I'm gonna leave a pinned comment down below after this video premieres, and in the reply section, let me know which ones you want to see first. Shadow the Hedgehog or Sonic Rush. Without all that said, thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, comment what you thought, and consider subscribing. That way my channel can keep going strong. See you all next time.